welcome to Home Charm. My name is Kaylee, and today is going to be another homeschool video. Today I'm going to talk about the science curriculum that we use in our family. So we are using, in first grade, we started with Science in the Beginning by Dr. Wile, and this is part of a series of science books. So the first one is Science in the Beginning, which we did in first grade. In second grade, I wanted to just try something different, so we did more of a unit study, and my daughter actually requested that we do the experiments from that first book that we did. So at the end of second grade, we went back to this science series, and so we started Science in the Ancient World towards the very end of second grade. So we're about 15 lessons in, so we're going to pick up from where we left off here for third grade to continue this book. I thought about trying to rush through it through the summer so we could start the third book at the beginning of third grade, but there's really no need to. These books are, all of them are recommended for elementary school, so first through fifth or sixth grade is fine. So it's really okay that she's in the second book in third grade. It doesn't matter. This year, Science in the Ancient World, and then if we're on track and finish it this year, then it goes on to fourth grade. We'll do, and the third book, Science in the Scientific Revolution, Science in the Age of Reason, and Science in the Industrial Age. So with these books, they follow scientific discoveries that happened throughout these different ages in time, and then the lessons are based off of what those discoveries were. And with this curriculum is a Christian-based curriculum. Honestly, when I was looking for science curriculums, I wasn't necessarily looking for one that was a Christian science curriculum. Even though my family is Christian, I have kind of a weird thing sometimes about curriculums that are Christian, because I think sometimes they don't actually align with what I believe biblically is true, or sometimes I feel like they just throw in scripture or quotes just to have them in there without really relating to the context of what is being learned, and or taking Bible verses out of context, and that really grinds my gears, and I don't like that. So I wasn't looking for this, but I found it, and the science part of it is really good and really in-depth science skills and lessons, and so I went ahead and bought it. One of the things that sold me on it is that although so Dr. Wile is he has a big, how do I want to say this, his views on teaching is creating, or is helping students to be curious and confident in science, and help prepare them for science in college and further, continuing learning. So I think he does a really good job of developing or encouraging critical thinking skills and explaining these scientific concepts really well. Like I said, they do come from a Christian worldview. However, I think anybody can learn from them, from the scientific aspect. But of course, if you're not a Christian, this maybe isn't going to be the series or curriculum that you would choose, because it is definitely throughout the books. So starting with Science in the Beginning, like I said, we did this in first grade. This starts I would say prehistory, but it's follows creation. So it's broken into 6 units basically, and each unit follows a day of creation. So the first unit is about 12 to 15 lessons. They actually have it to where the 12 12 lessons are for sure, don't skip any of them. And then they have 3 optional lessons that it's not going to hurt if you skip them. There won't be something that like you need for the next lesson from those. But if your kid really, really loves science, you have those additional options. So that's pretty great. So unit 1 is 12 lessons. So you can break that up how it works for you. If like we do about 2 to 3 science lessons a week, and we do it every other with history. So first unit is about light. The second unit follows the second day of creation, which is all about water and the sky or air, oxygen, things like experiments with that. Day 3 is about land, sea, and plants. So that's what you learn about over here. Day 4 is the 4th day of creation, so you learn about the sun, the moon, and like other things in the solar system. Day, and maybe some brightness too. Anyway, unit 5 follows the 5th day of creation, going about the animals in the water and animals in the sky. And then day 6 is land animals and people. So it's nice because it kind of progresses through those different days of creation, and then it ends with a little blurb on the 7th day, God rested, and now like you get to be done with your science experiments or whatever. And then this year, like I said, we will be continuing science in the ancient world. So this starts with, let me think back because we already did this part. This, once it gets to the actual like history or historical parts of science, is it breaks it down into time periods. So we have science before Christ. Both the first 2 units are science before Christ. There's a part 1 and a part 2, and it follows like when did science begin, and then some of the people who were involved in discoveries, in scientific discoveries, which includes math too, because they are very close related, with Pythagoras and Hippocrates. What I like about what Dr. J. Wile does is he will have a few lessons that are like, he'll say lesson 7 you learn about atoms. In part 1 you learn about atoms. In lesson 7 specifically, you learn some incorrect ideas about atoms. So when they were first discovering certain scientific ideas, they'd have ideas that maybe weren't always true, but they led to learning about those things, and so then they led to the right ideas. And so that's what he'll talk about. He'll say these were the incorrect ideas, and here's an experiment to show why it was incorrect, and why they maybe thought it might be a truth. And then the next lesson is the correct ideas about atoms. So what we actually learned from it, and sometimes it's the incorrect ideas that lead to correct ideas. I really like that he does that, because I think it reinforces when your kids start to make their own hypotheses. It can, if they make an incorrect hypothesis, then now they can see that, well, it's okay that it was wrong. Maybe you didn't have the right idea right now, but it can lead to the right idea. Like, now you have something to go off of for your next experiment or your next study. So we've finished with part 1, so we're going to be starting here on part 2 this week. But the ancient world, in the science, the ancient world goes through like before Christ, after Christ, and then like the Middle Ages and early Renaissance, which is actually works out perfectly, because in history this year we're going to be covering the Middle Ages. So to put, how do I want to do this? I have like one little thing I'm going to nitpick a little bit on these books, and I don't think it's really a problem, but I do think sometimes the author gets a little bit repetitive. I feel like when I'm reading aloud, explain how the lessons work. So the lesson will have like a part that you read aloud, and then this blue box is the actual experiment. So then you'll do the experiment, and then there's more to read where you sort of discuss the experiment and what you saw or should have seen, and explains why those things happened and why those things worked. Sometimes I think he gets a little repetitive. Like, I feel like I'll read the same thing over and over, like 2 or 3 times within the same text. And at first it really bothered me, and I felt like sometimes I needed to kind of summarize, especially for my young, like my first grader. Now that my daughter's in 3rd grade, I don't see it as much as much of a problem, because actually, now that we're going through this again, sometimes those repetitive things are helpful in reinforcing the important ideas. Like, it's not like he's just repeating the same exact sentence over and over. He's making sure that the point of the experiment or the point of the lesson is grasped fully, I think. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but if you kind of don't like hearing the same thing over and over, it might bother you. I don't know. But like I said, it did bother me at first. It doesn't really as much now, because I do feel like there's maybe some benefit to the repetitiveness. So that was just a nitpicky thing. Not a big deal. Something else that's great about these books is you can use this set for multiple grades. The actual lesson itself might be a bit much for a first grader to understand. We did it in first grade and my daughter loved it. There's things that I'm like, she is not going to get this, and she did. So I think have higher expectations of your kids, but also it's okay if they don't remember everything, because really what we're just doing is introducing these things so that by the time they're in 7th and 8th grade, when science gets to be more important and they need to start recognizing and remembering important scientific things, they'll have this sort of I don't know, some knowledge there. Like, not everything will sound completely new to them. They'll recognize some of the scientific words and different things just through going through it. So anyway, like I said, it is for various ages, geared towards elementary age, but pretty much 1st through 5th or 6th grade I think would be fine with these books. He has a really short and easy lesson review that in 1st grade we did just this part. So the lesson review is broken into younger students, older students, and oldest students. So you have different requirements for what your student needs to learn based on their age or abilities. So for my kids, I would just read the questions for the youngest students. Sometimes I would write what their answers. So I might we have a composition notebook that we use for both history and science, and I might write the question, and then I would write what my daughter said for the answer, and if she was right, cool. If she had it wrong, we would go back and answer it correctly. And then sometimes I would have her draw a picture of what she learned or what she remembered from the lesson, which I think that was great. There's always only 1 or 2 questions for the youngest student. Maybe sometimes there were 3, but I'm pretty sure it was usually two questions. We did that 1st grade. Last year, I still mostly just did that because of the journal part, where I have her draw a picture. I feel like that was good enough. This year, I think I'm going to start having her do the older students section, which actually they do have recommend keeping a notebook, and so she'll actually write herself write her answers herself, and rather than having direct questions, the older students, it'll say, explain what Plato thought about whether this mathematical truth was invented or discovered, and explain the idea. So she has to actually think through the process and write about it. I think sometimes I might let her just explain it verbally, but I'll probably have her write it still quite a bit. Anyway, and then oldest students do what the previous students do, and then have, in addition, they'll do something else. So yeah, I really like these for science. I think they're great. They're very detailed. My daughter is learning more than what she did from the unit study that I made last year. Even though it was a decent unit study, she really likes the hands-on experiments. And so if your kid loves experiments, or if you don't know a lot about science, this is easy to follow along too. So yeah, I highly recommend these books.